Hello students, I welcome you all in the second lecture on chemical kinetics, and in this lecture we will continue our discussion on chemical kinetics and different aspects of the subject. From the previous lecture we will continue. So we were discussing about the rate of the chemical reaction, and we saw that how the concentration of reactant as well as product, it actually changes according to the rate of the reaction, or you can say that rate of the reaction changes according to the concentration. So their interdependency has been seen in the many examples we discussed in the previous lecture. So if you talk about the relationship between the concentration and rate of the reaction, so you know that each reaction has its own equation, and it expresses that its rate is a function of the concentration of all the involved species. So what are these species? We have reactant whose concentration continuously decreases as a function of time, and also we have the products whose concentration continuously increases as the rate of the time. So this is actually known as the rate law. We have seen so many expressions of the rate law in the previous lecture. And in the rate law, what we are doing, we are establishing a relationship between the rate of the chemical reaction and decreasing concentration of the reactant, or increasing concentration of the products with respect to time. So this is known as the rate law when we express the relationship between the concentration and rate of the reaction. So what is rate law? In general, the rate of the reaction, it increases as the concentration of the reactant increases. So here the concentration of reactant actually moves the reaction in the forward direction. If you increase the concentration of product, then what will happen? Then the equilibrium will shift backwards, and this will not increase the rate of the reaction, right? So when you increase the concentration of the reactant, it actually increases the rate of the reaction, and there are more collisions now occurring between the reactant molecule, and they will lead to the product formation. So the overall concentration dependence of the reaction rate, it is given in the rate law, or you can see the rate expression. So this is the simple rate law that we can write for any of the equation, general equation. So V is what? V is the rate of the reaction, and K is the rate constant, A is a reactant 1, M is the stoichiometric constant for reactant A, and B is the reactant 2, N is the stoichiometric constant for reactant B. So we have seen how the stoichiometry of a balanced chemical equation governs the rate law. Here, A and B in the square brackets, they represent the concentration of reactants, and the exponent m and n, like I told you, they are the reaction order with respect to specific reactant, and the constant k is the rate constant. Now overall reaction order is what? It is the sum of the reaction orders, that is m plus n. So when you add the two quantities m and n, what you get? You get the order of the reaction. So in the rate laws, we have rate constants, and the orders are determined experimentally. So now this thing is very important here. When you are determining the order of the reaction, you are not taking the stoichiometric constants here, right? The order of the reaction is not determined by the stoichiometric constant in the balanced chemical equation. Rather, they are determined by experimental methods. So how the concentration of a particular reactant is changing, that could be different from the actual balanced chemical equation. Like you can see here, this is ClO2, it is written as the stoichiometric constant is 2 written in the chemical equation. But when the experimental determinations were done, this has to be found as 1. So the order of the reactant is not generally related to the stoichiometric coefficient in a balanced chemical equation. So now let us see what do we mean by simple and complex rate laws. So when we talk about the reactions with the simple rate laws, you have the reactions which are taking place in one step, right? So they will have a simple rate law like H2 plus I2 is equal to 2HI, one step reaction. And if you write down the rate of the reaction V, it will be equal to K H2 into I. Similarly, if you write down this perchlorate ion, ClO negative, so you will write down the breakdown of this ion like this, and this is also a one-step reaction. So The rate will depend only on the concentration of one reactant. So these are the examples in which the reactions they have simple rate laws, but we also have the reactions which are actually very complex ones. And in that case, we have a complex rate law. So you can see the difference between a simple rate law and a complex rate law. So what is the difference between simple and complex rate law? Because in the simple rate law, our chemical reaction is taking place in one step only. But when we talk about the complex rate law, reaction is actually involving a sequence of elementary steps. You can see that this reaction in which hydrogen bromide is getting formed, it is not simple as it is looking. It may involve so many steps, and therefore it is a complex reaction, and these individual steps they are known as the elementary steps. So each of the step could have its own rate law, and when you uh, uh, go for an overall rate law, you have to look all the rate laws involved in the individual elementary steps. So the overall rate cannot involve the intermediate species, because you know that when we are putting a species inside a square bracket, we are basically concerned about the concentration of that species, right? And you cannot get the exact concentration of the intermediate involved. So whenever you are writing the rate law, yeah, this is a very important point here. Whenever you are writing the rate law, no intermediate species is involved in the rate law, right? Only the stable ones, the stable compounds which are formed, they can be included in the rate law. So that is how the rate law becomes so complex. Now, what are the elementary reactions? So they always follow the simple rate law, and when we are talking about a complex reaction, so individual steps in the complex reaction, they are known as the elementary reaction. Like example is like a unimolecular decomposition. So like A is getting converted into B, and the simple rate law would be B is equal to K into A. This is what, this is a unimolecular decomposition which involves only one molecule of the reactant, right? When we have a bimolecular reaction like this, when you have A plus B, like the two different molecules, they are combining together and forming the product. So what would you get in this reaction? The rate constant would be V is equal to K into AB. So A is the concentration of reactant A, and B concentration of reactant B. Or it is also possible that the two molecules of the similar chemical substance are involved, and they are forming together a new product. So in that case, this would be A into A, or you would get A square. So now the reactant order reflects the molecularity of molecule involved in the reaction. So, but they are not always same. You cannot say that molecularity is equal to one. Molecularity is equal to the order of the reaction, or order actually is equal to the molecularity. These two are the two different concepts, and we will discuss them in the same lecture in the coming slides. So here you can see the two is not actually required here. Only the concentration of the A is actually changing along with the time. So how would you write that, whether it is A square or not? So molecularity is 2, yes, which is reflected from the chemical equation. But what would be the order that we will find only by the chemical experimentation? Now take us some example of the rate law. So consider this reaction. This is the ammonium ion in the aqueous medium reacting with the nitrate ion in the same aqueous medium, and as a result of this, what would we get? We get nitrogen gas and also water, H2O. So let us say that the following observations from several experiments were made. Like when we double the concentration of ammonium ion, it doubles the rate with which with a NO2 negative constant. So when you double the rate, the concentration of the ammonium ion, rate of the reaction get doubles, while you are keeping the other concentration NO2 negative constant. As the NO2 negative concentration is doubled, it also doubles the rate of the reaction, and you are keeping the NH4 positive concentration constant. So with the individual reactant, if you double their concentration, it actually doubles the rate of the reaction. So how would you express it? The rate law would be K into NH4 positive and NO2 negative. Both we are keeping in the square bracket, representing their concentration. So from this rate law, from this expression, we can see what are the observations. So if you double the concentration of NH4 plus, definitely it will double the rate. And if you double the NO2 negative concentration, if you simply double it, then what will happen? It will also double the rate of the reaction. So simple rate law can be written from these observations, and this reaction is said to be first order with respect to NH4 plus and first order with respect to NO2 negative. So both of the reactants, they are able to affect the rate of the reaction, and therefore reaction is first order with respect of each of them. But what about the overall order? So now you will sum, you will get the sum of m and n. So m value is, the coefficient m would be 1 and coefficient n here would be 1. So what would be the overall order of the reaction? It is said to be the second order reaction overall. So the reaction rates, they actually come from the experimental data and not from the stoichiometry of balanced chemical equation. Now example reaction, for this example reaction, concentration and rates are given. So this is a different experiments in which the concentration of ammonium ion and nitrate ion, they have been changed to different extent, and how the rates are observed, they are written here. So now if you compare the experiment 1 and 2, in the experiment 1, what happens? The NO2 concentration is just double to the uh, is far greater than the concentration of ammonium ion, and this is the observed rate. And because when you double the concentration of ammonium ion, this actually doubles the initial rate of the reaction. So in the first experiment, this was 0.01. In the second experiment, it was 0.02, and we have kept the concentration of nitrate ion constant. So you can see that just the rate got doubled in the experiment 2. So again, we are keeping the concentration of nitrate constant, and when you further double the rate, again it gets doubled. When you further double the concentration of ammonium ion, again the rate got doubled. But when you keep the concentration of ammonium constant, right, 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, so here when once you double the initial concentration of nitrate, again the rate got doubled. So for individual reactant, the reaction order is 1 with respect to each of them. So likewise in the experiment 5 and 6, like I told you, you are keeping the concentration of ammonium ion constant and you are doubling the concentration of nitrate ion. So this also doubles the rate of the reaction. You can say that rate of the reaction is proportional to the concentration of ammonium ion, and rate of reaction is proportional to the concentration of nitrate ion. So when you combine these two expressions, we can write that rate is proportional to ammonium and nitrate ion concentration. And once you remove the proportionality sign, now what you will do, you will introduce a rate constant here, that is K. So the rate would be equal to K ammonium and nitrate ion. This equation is called the rate law, and small k is what? It is the rate constant. So this is the chemical reaction for which we were seeing different experiments. Now, if you talk about individually the rate law, so the exponent tells the order of the reaction with respect to each reactant in the rate law, right? In the chemical equation, if you see, then from the stoichiometry we are getting the molecularity. But when we are seeing the exponential exponents on the rate law, then you get the order of the reaction. So you, as you see that it is a first order in ammonium ion and first order in the nitrate ion. So now what you will do, you will add the two exponents. So it is one in the ammonium, one in the nitrate, and as a result of this, the overall reaction order would be what? It would be 2. So this reaction is a second order overall. So here constant is what? It is relative here, and K is unique for each reaction, and this K changes with temperature. Now this is the integrated rate law, and what is the goal of integrated rate law? You express the concentration as a function of time. So like we have seen that for instantaneous rate law, we can get different rate expressions during the course of the reaction. Suppose you have taken the rate expression, rate law at the 10 second, then at the 50 second, 100 second, 200 second. So likewise, you will get so many different rate laws at different time intervals. So that would be the instantaneous rate law. Now, in order to get the overall rate law for the reaction, you have to add them all. So what we do, we just integrate all the rate laws, and this is known as the integrated rate law. So at different time intervals. You just integrate all the rate expressions, all the rate laws, and as a result of this, the expression that we get, it is called as the integrated rate law. So this experimental data that we are using is typical in concentration versus time, and we integrate the expressions of rate law, like different rate laws, integrated rate laws. They are written here. So suppose this A is equal to P. This is a zero order reaction, and the differential form would be what? dA upon dt. This would be the differential form, right? In which we are taking the rate at a particular instance. But when you integrate this equation, what you will get this rate law expression. So this is the differential form, and this is the integrated form. So in the differential form, we are talking about at a particular instance, what is the status of the reaction, what is the progress in the reaction. But in the integrated rate law, we are starting from time zero going to time infinity, or going to a particular time. You are actually integrating the all the rate laws at particular instances. Then for suppose this is the first order reaction, then how would you write it? This would be dA upon dt minus Ka, and this is the integrated form. Then for the second order reaction, it would be like this. This would be A square, and this will be the integrated form of the uh, rate law. Similarly, if you have two different reactants involved, then in the second order reaction, this would be the differential rate law, and this would be the integrated rate law. So, chemical reaction that models is a degradation of the molecule A and changing into phi. So, this is the rate of the change of A, concentration A. This would be the rate of the reaction, and degradation constant would be minus gamma. So, this is actually the rate constant here. And when you plot a graph between the reactant A and time, there is gradual decrease in the concentration of reactant A, and after a certain time interval, you can see that once the equilibrium is attained here, the concentration of A becomes practically constant, and there is no further change in the concentration of reactant A. Now what happens, this is the chemical reaction that models the generation from D and degradation of molecule A. So from D we are getting A, and this is further decomposing into phi. So here the rate of the change of A is dA upon dt. This is the production constant K for this first reaction, that is the generation reaction, and minus this is the degradation constant. So this is actually showing the degradation of the molecule A into phi. So this would be minus gamma A. That is how you represent the rate of this overall reaction. So now let us take another chemical reaction, and this is A plus B is equal to C. The rate constant would be K. So how would you rate it? The rate would be dA upon dt, right? So any of the reactant you can take here, because all the expressions would be equal. dA upon dt would be equal to dB upon dt. So it would be same in any of these expressions. So you will write dA upon dt minus, because we are taking it in terms of the reactant. So minus K, A and B. So this is the rate expression for this type of reaction. Then again take another example. So here we have Na plus Mb is equal to Ck. So you know that you have to include these stoichiometric values in the equation. So how would you write it? If you're taking it in the terms of A, then you will write 1 upon N dA upon dt. And because this is a reactant, it would be minus K A raised to power N and B raised to power M. So that is how you write the rate law for this type of reaction. Now let us see what do we mean by order of reaction. So a reaction is zero order in a reactant if the change in the concentration of that reactant produces no effect on the rate expression, no effect on the rate of the reaction of when you change the concentration. So it becomes zero order. Now if doubling the concentration causes the rate to double, then it becomes the first order reaction. If the doubling the concentration causes a quadruple increase in the rate, then your reaction becomes a second order reaction. Similarly, if you talk about a third order reaction, then doubling the concentration will lead to 8 times the reaction rate. So this is extremely rare, because in a third order reaction at a time you cannot change the concentration of three species at a time. So even the molecularity more than three is uncommon. So the reactions with more third order and more than third order, they are really extremely rare. So we will focus our discussion on the zero order, first order, and second order reactions. So this is the expression again. This is our reaction, and here the orders are mentioned. This is the differential form, and this would be the integrated form of the rate law. So we have considered here the zero order reaction, then first order reaction, second order reaction when you have similar molecules involved, and second order reaction when you have two different molecules in the chemical equation. So this we have seen in the previous slide also. Let us discuss individual processes one by one. So first of all, let us see the zero order process. So like we have seen that when the order of the reaction is zero, it means that by whatever amount you change the concentration of reactant, it will have no effect on the rate of the reaction. So now what happens? It would be minus delta AT upon delta T would be equal to K, that is constant. So the rate of the reaction will always be constant. It will be equal to the rate constant, and it will have no effect by whatever amount you change the concentration of the reactant. So now you will write the integrated form like this: AT is equal to minus KT plus A naught, where A naught is the concentration, initial concentration, and AT is the concentration of reactant A at the time t. So now you can compare this equation with the equation of straight line, that is y is equal to mx plus b. So now if you plot AT versus time, then what will you get? The straight line is obtained with a slope, negative slope is obtained minus k, because the minus k is what? It is the slope of the straight line. So this is rate constant, and the intercept is what? It is A naught, the initial concentration of reactant A. So this would be the graph of a zero order process. This is the differential form of rate law, and this is the integrated form of the rate law. Then moving forward, let us discuss about the first order process. So for first order reaction, you know that this would be the integrated rate law, which we have seen in the previous slide. And when you have first order process, as we know that if you double the concentration of one reactant, it will double the rate of the reaction as well. So here AT is the concentration of A after some time t. Small k is the reaction rate constant in the units of per second. Then T is the time in second. A naught is the initial concentration of A. So this equation has a general form for straight line, that is y is equal to mx plus b. And therefore a plot of ln of AT versus T is a straight line with slope minus k and intercept ln A naught. So this is a natural logarithm we have taken, and when you plot a graph between ln AT and time, again you get a straight line with slope minus k. So this will be equal to the rate constant, right? And once you get the intercept, this is equal to the initial concentration law of natural logarithm of the initial concentration. Examples of a first order reaction, you can see that conversion of methyl isonitrile CH3NC to acetonitrile, that is CH3CN. So what would be the change that is taking place here? Earlier the functional group was NC isonitrile, and later on after the conversion has taken place, now this has become C, that is CN, that is the cyanide. So this process is considered in which the methyl isonitrile is converted to acetonitrile. Now, how can we say that this is a first order reaction? So, let us plot a graph here, and what we have taken the pressure of CH3NC torr, which is equivalent to the concentration term in case of the liquid and solid, and you plot it with respect to time. So you can see that there is a continuous decrease in the pressure of this CH3NC, which actually shows that this is showing the reaction moving forward direction. So continuously the products are getting formed, and there is decrease in the concentration of CH3NC. So this data has been collected for the reaction at 198.9 degrees Celsius, and now does the rate is equal to KCH3NC. It is for all the time intervals. So you can have different time intervals here, and you can get the slope of the tangent of the slope here. So how would you get it? Is by simple mathematical calculation, you count the slope, and now you can say you can determine that whether the reaction is first order with respect to the rate constant or not. So this is the integrated rate law for the first order process. Now, if the reaction is first order, it must follow this rate law. So, when you plot a ln of AT versus T, it will yield a straight line with a slope of minus K. So, now let us see the graph here. This is the as per the integrated rate law of the first order reaction. So you can see that when the ln A was plotted as a function of time, what you get? You get a straight line, and therefore we can say that this process is what? It is a first order reaction. Now, once you find out the slope of the line, then you get the negative slope, that is 5.1 into 10 raised to power minus 5 second inverse. So from this type of graphical method, we can find out whether the reaction is a first order reaction or a second order reaction. So we will discuss a similar example for the second order process also. So graphical methods are very reliable. Once you have the experimental data with yourself, then you can easily plot this graph, and you can find out whether the reaction is following zero order, first order, or second order. So in this manner, you know that we are finding out the order of the reaction by experimental method. So it is not the chemical equation, the balanced chemical equation of a particular reaction that is going to give us the order of the reaction. Rather, we have to perform the experimental, you have to perform the experiment, you have to find out the concentration, then you have to plot the graph as per the rate laws, and then you find out the order of the process. So in the second order process also, this is the integrated rate law expression, and here you know that all the terms, they have the usual meanings. So AT is the concentration of A after time T, K is the reaction rate, but now you can notice that the reaction rate has different units as compared to the first order process. In the first order process, the reaction rate was the rate constant was having unit of second inverse, right? But in the second order process, it is mole inverse in second inverse. Time in T is the time in second, and A naught is the initial concentration of A. So now from this rate law, integrated rate law, what are the findings? If you plot a graph between 1 upon AT and time, you will get a slope like this, a positive slope. Straight line is obtained, and the slope is the rate constant, and intercept is 1 upon A naught. So that we can obtain from this integrated rate law. So now let us take another example, that is the decomposition of nitrous oxide at 300 degrees Celsius, and this is the chemical equation. Now the data obtained is listed here in the table. So with respect to time, different concentration of nitrous oxide are nitric oxide, they are listed here. So initial time you have a 0.01 mole of the NO2, but at 300 second you have 0.00380 mole of the NO2. So now, if you plot a graph here between the ln of NO2 versus T, then what will you get? You get a line like this, which is nearly, you can say that it is not a straight line. So this is not, the process is not first order in the A. And if you see the ln values also, if you see the logarithm values of NO2 also, so it does not fit the first order rate law. Therefore, you can say that reaction is not a first order reaction. So now let us try to fit in this value in the second order rate law. So now what we will do, we will just take the inverse of these values. So when you plot the inverse value of the NO2 concentration with respect to time, now what you get a straight line now, right? So now because you are getting the straight line, the process is it is the now you can say that it is second order in the NO2. So that is how you determine the order of the reaction. So first we will try to fit in the data into the first order rate expression and first order graph, but it was not fitting in. So we tried for the second order process, and therefore we came to know that the reaction is actually a second order process. Now I have a few questions for you from today's lecture. first of all, what do you mean by the order of the reaction? So you have to determine how you determine the order of the reaction. You have to define it and you have to write down how you determine it. Second question is, what is the molecularity of a reaction? So molecularity of the reaction, how you get it? You are getting it from the balanced chemical equation, right? And another thing, you can actually go for a comparison between the order of a reaction and molecularity of a reaction. So here you can establish that how a unimolecular reaction can have a second order process. Like we have seen just in the previous example. In this example, we have seen that this is what? This is a unimolecular reaction, right? This is a reaction. This is a reaction. It is unimolecular in nature. But if you find out the order of the reaction, you came to know that this is a second order process. So you can actually go for the comparison between the molecularity of the reaction and the order of the reaction. Now, next question is, now can order of a reaction can be fractional one? So this is a very important question. Can it be a fractional one when you have to add on the two exponents? Then can it be a fractional one? So yes, order of the reaction can be fractional also, but molecularity cannot be fractional, because when you are considering the molecularity, you are actually going for a balanced chemical equation. So if some fractions are there, then what we used to do when we have fractions there, we just multiply them with a suitable number, and we get all the quantities in whole number. So molecularity cannot be a fractional one, but yes, order of the reaction can be a fractional one. Now, is it possible for a reaction to have identical values for molecularity and order? That is a very important question here. Can we have both the two values same for a particular chemical reaction? So just try to find out different examples. Suppose if you get any example, then please write it down in which the molecularity and order are same. But yes, it is possible that generally molecularity and order, they are not same. Just in the previous example, we have seen that in the decomposition of NO2, the molecularity was 1, but the order was 2. So try to find out all these values. Then these are the references for today's lecture. And today we are ending this lecture here, but we will continue our discussion in the coming lectures on chemical kinetics, and we will discuss all the remaining phenomena left in this topic. So that is all from my side for today. Thank you so much.